I would have been the one to just be like, oh yeah, this is the perfect tool that I need, and I wouldn't have even known that it was streaming to YouTube.
Yeah, I probably would have just been like, oh, cool, we're recording, and then like everything you say is live and recorded to YouTube.
No, so I don't know if we should say this for the podcast, but I listen to talk radio, Cleveland sports talk radio, pretty much like in the background every morning from like the hours of 8 to noon.
Yeah.
And when I was reading through your thoughts or the ideas for what to talk about, this is the exact shit that they talk about, like on a radio show that like they get paid to do it. Like they talk about their own fantasy leagues. Like anyone really cares, but they have so many viewers. It's like it's crazy.
I know. Well, because like when you think about the premise that we're doing, it's kind of like, who in the world would actually want to listen to this? But like it really serves no purpose other than our own. And if you just have like good enough chemistry with the guy you're talking with, or you know a lot about the subject, then people are going to want to listen.
But then again, like, who knows? I mean, like, I bet a lot of podcasts that people started out with, they were probably just like, you know what? We're just going to talk, and we're just going to record it and see what happens.
Yeah. That's probably, honestly, like, how it got started, yeah.
So, anyway. Well, you tell me when you're ready to go.
All right. So I don't know if we want to if you want to run through kind of the outline a little bit first or what, but just like before we go into it.
Are we just going to do like a test run where we don't need to introduce ourselves, or do we need to introduce ourselves?
That's the thing. I don't really know. Like every other podcast I listen to, it's sort of well-known people that introduce themselves. I thought we could just maybe we'll just start the podcast by just like maybe I'll just run some of the audio that we're doing right now.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know if we should.
Oh, are you already recording?
Yeah, I just recorded. I can cut it out later, but so I don't know if we really want to talk about the fantasy football thing too much. I kind of want to dive more into like the Browns in week 1, but we can definitely look at what do you think of the kind of fantasy football little topics that I had.
No, I mean, this is the first year I've played fantasy football for a couple years, and I was pretty surprised that the quarterbacks weren't higher rated, which is, I think, the points league. But I wanted Aaron Rodgers more than anything, but fucking Owen. I swear that kid is in my mind sometimes.
Yeah.
Because his second pick was OBJ, who I ended up taking, but...
Yeah, fantasy football really has changed a lot. Like, I remember the first couple years that I did it, the first pick for almost everyone was either like a quarterback or, I don't know, back then it was like LaDainian Tomlinson, or like there was like one or two hot wide receivers or running backs in the first round, and the rest were quarterbacks.
Yeah.
But with like PPR and I don't know, because like the guys the receivers get a lot more points.
Yeah, I think probably it's just the points are evolving that way because it's more entertaining. I think there's more risk in it if the receivers have like the skill positions have more weight than a quarterback, because pretty much I think that if you put more weight on the quarterback scoring, then whoever has the best quarterbacks are going to win the leagues every year.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like if you don't get Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, or Peyton Manning when he was playing in the last 5 years, let's say, then you basically were at a disadvantage. So that came down to draft position, and there's no skill in draft position. So like now, with the points being more weighted towards receiver and running back, then I think it kind of levels the playing field because you can still do a lot of damage with a mediocre quarterback.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was just thinking as you said that, is that like the difference between like the number of points that say like the top 2 quarterbacks score and the number like 10 and 11 quarterbacks is really not that much. And since you can only play one quarterback, it makes sense to get like double down on good wide receivers and running backs before you even think about getting the quarterback that's going to end up getting maybe 3 points less than. I mean, of course, obviously guys like Aaron Rodgers and Matt Ryan and in the top 5 can sort of go off for like those 38, 40-point games, but most of the time they're all going to be sitting right around like 18 to 22.
Well, I mean, at point one points per yard, right?
Yeah.
So they would have to have a pretty crazy game to get that many points. So I like it. We'll see. The last 3 or 4 years, I've kind of given up on fantasy. And I'll be interested to see how fantasy leagues like this hang in there with like DraftKings and stuff like that, because I think like people our age typically want like instant gratification, and I think you'll see it in our league this year. And I might be guilty of it. I would much rather do a DraftKings thing where I know on Sunday whether I won or lost than commit to a full 16-week season or whatever, assuming I make playoffs. So it'll be interesting to see how leagues like this hang in there. But it's just crazy. The DraftKings, they're doing a $1 billion sweepstakes. Have you heard that?
No, I have not heard that.
So they say it's just an advertisement that I heard that if you draft the perfect team, then. And I don't know what constitutes the perfect team, but this weekend, the first week in the NFL season, you have a chance to win $1 billion, which is insane. $1 billion, like more than any lottery, anything. It's $1 billion.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know people that are like, really into fantasy. I don't even think they use ESPN anymore. I think a lot of people use like an app called, or I don't know if it's an app, but a website called SleeperBot. And there's a couple other like, I don't know. There's this thing that Bill Simmons does that's called, I forget the exact name of it. But they basically do a year-round fantasy. So you draft people, I don't know when they started, but you draft people from the MLB, the NBA, and the NFL, and like you play, like you can trade like, say you trade like Clayton Kershaw for Steph Curry, or like you can do like stuff like that. And
that's fascinating because it's turning into like its own industry. Like people are going to work solely.
Yeah, there's people that like probably even like a couple years ago were like solely doing DraftKings and that kind of stuff, and just making, I mean, hell, if you can make like, $80,000 a year off of that and just, oh my gosh, work for like 5 months out of the year.
So as far as our fantasy league goes, did you research it at all, or did you just kind of? I
had done a draft, like 2 weeks ago. And I had looked up, not like gone real in depth, but maybe like a couple days before I started reading some articles about some sleeper guys, because I pretty much like kind of know who are the top guys. So I had done maybe a couple days research there, and then the other draft like kind of prepared me because just looking who other people picked, and then the big thing I did during our draft was. There's a few websites out there that you can look at average draft position. So basically telling you throughout that day or like the past week, I think maybe when like you can set it up. So like for an 8-team snake draft, like when was Amari Cooper like taken? So you can kind of look at like when he's available and be like, oh, I'm not reaching for whoever, or yeah, I am reaching a little bit. Maybe I should go somewhere else. So,
did you draft most of your team with your head or with your heart?
Mostly with my head. There were a couple times where I saw like.
Did you have a heart pick? I mean, because there's players like beyond the Browns that I just love in the league that I just put on my team because I want to cheer for them.
I mean, I definitely took Keenan Allen as a heart pick because I know that he should have really, really good seasons being Phillip Rivers' main target, but he's just been hampered by injury like basically every year of his career. I just hope that...
So that's still a head pick.
What's that?
That's still kind of a head pick,
I guess so, yeah.
So, like, I mean, to your defense, I mean, I guess, like, my first pick was Odell Beckham because I could watch him play, like, for hours because I just think that every play, he's so exciting. But it's hard towards the bottom of the draft not to start just going with heart picks because you can definitely talk yourself into picking either players on the Browns or players you just with name recognition, and want on your team.
Right. Well, I definitely wanted Kareem Hunt because he's a Toledo guy. And
yeah.
I was like, eyeing him the entire draft, and then, like, a couple of times I was like, nah, I shouldn't go for him yet. And then, of course, I didn't go for him the one round I should have, and I think Marcus took him.
Okay, gotcha. If I had a miss, so was that your biggest miss?
I would say so, just off the top of my head. Yeah, I have him in my other league, but I really wanted him in this league. Who's your biggest miss, you'd say?
That's like a win-win. I mean, because I think that even though he's a rookie and he's Toledo, that's the heart side, but he's supposed to have like a breakout season. Like a lot of people are expecting like big things from him in Kansas City.
Right? Yeah, especially because Spencer Ware. I mean, Spencer Ware wasn't anything extraordinary, but he was a decent running back. But he got injured, so now it's all on Hunt basically.
Yeah,
and he was really good. I think he had over 2,000 yards. I want to say. His senior year. I know he was up there.
Kareem?
Yeah.
Damn, that's crazy. Did you look at the summary of the teams after it was done?
On ESPN or?
Of our teams.
I just kind of looked at like the overall draft. I didn't really look at because that's one thing that stinks about ESPN is they don't give you a draft grade.
Oh, other leagues do?
Yeah, like Yahoo Sports will give you like a draft grade. Like it'll be like, oh, you chose 2 wide receivers that were in the like top 20 in touchdowns last year, like A+ at receivers and like stuff like that.
Yeah. I didn't know they did that.
Yeah, I was surprised ESPN doesn't do it, but
they're the king of grading everything.
Yeah, really.
Like Tom Brady blows a fart and ESPN is grading it.
But yeah, so I guess let's just get into it. I mean, we've kind of been talking. Welcome to the podcast. I don't know. We don't really have a name for it yet. We're at that, throw the 1,000 names on the whiteboard. But my name is Bill Hebble. I'm here with Michael Zappa. Just 2 Cleveland Brown heads. I was thinking in my mind, maybe the podcast would be called, like, Here We Go, because the Dog Pound always does that. Here We Go Brownies chant. So maybe we could throw something in like that. But we want to get started off with some fantasy football talk. We just had our local hometown fantasy football draft a couple nights ago. And we just kind of run through some of the ups and downs of what we saw. And maybe some, talk and some sleeper picks that we got, and then we'll discuss the league outlook and maybe some last place predictions. So let's look at some of the picks in the first 2 rounds here and see who took the biggest chance. Now, personally,
throw them at me. I don't have it in front of me, but
okay.
I'll give.
Well, let's see. Well, this is pretty atypical of any draft that you usually see, but we had 4 quarterbacks taken in the first 2 rounds. And we were talking before about how fantasy has kind of, changed a lot because just the passing game has evolved over the years, and the point spread, really kind of hampers quarterbacks because they don't get as many points as some of the receivers and the running backs do. So, I mean, I really think Aaron Rodgers, that was a huge reach at number 1, just because you have no idea what's going to happen with Aaron Rodgers and Green Bay. So,
right, and I mean they're so spotty because the team really depends on Aaron Rodgers. So whereas I think the other strong teams in the league, I'm a huge Rodgers fan and a huge Green Bay fan, but I think some of the other stronger teams in the league are more consistent. I think week to week you don't really know what you get unless Aaron Rodgers is playing like Aaron Rodgers, which more times than not he is.
Right.
So I think that's kind of like old school drafting though, because just looking through old school fantasy drafting. So because just looking through the top 100 rated players, when you look at quote big boards for any fantasy, it's top 50 are 90% skill positions with a few quarterbacks in there.
Yeah, you may see Tom Brady or Drew Brees or some guy like Drew Brees who's thrown 5,000 yards for who knows how many consecutive seasons now. I mean, he's always up there. But other than that, you just see a lot of like David Johnson's always number 1 pick pretty much. Zeke would be up there barring any kind of suspension or anything like that. And just a lot, like you said, a lot of skill guys, and it's kind of surprising.
For the lazy fantasy owner, I feel like the weight being less on a quarterback is a bad thing. But for someone who's actually going to take the time and be committed to the 16-week or 12-week season for fantasy, I think is good because of the variability of skill positions. So even though a guy like Odell Beckham is arguably the best receiver in the league, he still has to have someone to throw it to him. So whether he's at the top of his game or not, that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to get the points. So I think that means you have to look at defenses, you have to look at what corner is going to be on Odell Beckham. You have to all sorts of different things come into play when you really need your 3 skill positions or 5 skill positions to come through if you want to have a shot at winning that week.
Yeah, definitely. And quarterbacks are, at least every team expects their quarterback to start 16 games. But a lot of the skill and play literally every snap of offense. But a lot of the skill positions, guys are running trick plays, they're flipping people in and out, they're putting people in weird positions to try and mismatch the defense. So I think the skill positions definitely do have a lot better advantages against the defense than, say, a quarterback does trying to just make it down the field. Get first downs, basically their job, and so you don't get any points for even though the quarterbacks get the win, I guess, in the record books, they don't get any points for that in fantasy. So
yeah, one player on your fantasy team that you would put on the Cleveland Browns.
Let me look through here real quick.
Mine would be Seattle's defense and special teams.
No,
mine would be Odell Beckham for sure.
That is
even though Drew Brees is my quarterback and I have Marcus Mariota as my backup, who I love. I love Marcus Mariota, but I think I'm a big fan of Deshaun Kaiser, so I'm really excited to see what he does this year. I hope he can stay healthy, even if he throws 20 picks, as long as he throws 30 touchdowns. I can live with it.
Right.
From a rookie.
Yeah, I think, maybe, I have Golden Tate and we had Terrell Pryor, but I had Golden Tate and Brandon Cooks, and those two guys are kind of, really sure hand catch guys. I mean, Corey Coleman is coming around, and he should have a pretty good, second season. But I just think, I think Golden Tate, led the league last year in yards after the catch.
That's crazy. I did not know that.
Yeah,
I ranked so high in all of the leagues, and that's why it makes what Matthew Stafford did so impressive. Is because I can't name typically across the NFL. I can name a few of their skill positions pretty much for most of the teams, but when I think about Detroit, I guess Golden Tate just quietly had a really great year last year.
Yeah, it's kind of surprising. It's kind of one of those things where it's they lost Calvin Johnson and everyone was down on him, but they were, with Matthew Stafford and all the weapons, Theo Riddick, they're just able to spread the ball around so much. I think people don't expect that offense to really do much, and then even though they do a lot, it surprises people, teams every week, how good they are. So, I heard an interesting thing on another podcast today that, they basically said, and we can do this with the Browns, if you had to trade, one position group away from the Browns to another team's position group, what would be the best for the Browns?
Defensive line. Or front seven, I guess, right?
Yeah.
It would have to. That's the only position of strength, I think, on our team.
Right. I mean, the offensive line should be really good. I wouldn't think, I think we could, I would want to trade, say we'd have to trade, our receivers for, Seattle's secondary. I would do that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think
that... you have to find a fair. Does it have to be a fair trade, or?
No. I guess you're considering that. So, if we traded away our receivers, they would be theoretically replaced by league average wide receivers, and we would get Seattle's cornerbacks, and then Seattle's secondary will be replaced by.
You think our receiving core will be league average this year?
I think a league average receiving core would definitely increase our offense. But I don't know. I mean, Kenny Britt I could see him quietly having 1,000-yard season. Really stinks that we lost Pryor. I mean, it seemed like we had the cap space to sign him at whatever he really wanted, and I don't know what happened there. I really don't. We just kind of let him go.
He. From my understanding, he didn't think how the Browns valued him was what his actual worth was. So we gave Kenny Britt the same contract that we offered to Pryor, which was 4 years, $8 million per year, so $32 million.
Right.
But Terrell Pryor thought that with another year, if he went for, let's say, 1,500 yards this year, and that he didn't want to sign a 4-year deal for $8 million because if he went out this year with the Browns and had 1,500 yards and 9-10 touchdowns, well, now he's one of the best receivers in the league, and he's getting paid $8 million.
Right.
So I think it was more, and I know everyone wants to gang up on the Browns front office, but I think the Browns made a fair offer to him, but ultimately it was Terrell Pryor saying, if I'm going to get paid $8 million, I'm just going to play for someone on a 1-year deal, bet on myself with a good quarterback in Kirk Cousins, and see what I can do. Because if he had 1,000 yards last year, and I think he had 7 touchdowns last year with 5 different quarterbacks, I mean, who knows what could happen. And honestly, I low-key want him to do really well because I had a lot of fun watching him play last year. So
I'm definitely pulling for him. Yeah, looking at it now, it looks like he signed a $6 million, a 1-year $6 million deal.
Yeah, exactly.
So I mean, yeah, he was asking for something in the 12 per year range. I want to say, and I mean that's putting up with Doug Baldwin. I mean, Des Bryant only makes $2 million more than that, and I don't know. That is a lot of money to pay a guy who just, beginner's luck, if you want to say, had a good season for the Browns. So
that's why I can't really fault the. I know all the fans want to jump on him and say he should have paid him whatever he needed. We had all this cap space, but those are the same people that after he came out this year and would have had 700. Not to say that he would have, but had the 700 yards and a few touchdowns, would have been saying we missed, right? So It's like at this point, I think everything that the Browns front office are doing is like calculated risk. And it's like, okay, we're not going to be Super Bowl contenders this year, probably not next year. So if we're going to invest in someone, we want to invest in them at a level that will allow them to be with us when we are going to contend, which I think is probably, hopefully, optimistically, 3 years away.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm fascinated with the finance and business side of the NFL because I think it goes so overlooked. But just being kind of in business, it's so interesting. Like the Joe Hayden cut because of the offset language in his contract. The Browns owe him nothing, even though he had 3 more years on his contract at $10 million a year. The Browns released him. He was signed. We owe him nothing. So, like, think about all these massive contracts that have been signed in the NFL in the last few years. What is the money that's actually getting paid out?
Right.
I think the contracts in the NFL are almost like devalued in an extent. To an extent.
Yeah, especially with teams that have, large salary caps. Like this summer when the Browns, basically bought a second-round pick from Houston for Osweiler, he was literally a salary dump. And I remember when they were trying to, there was talks of him being shopped around by the Browns, like, days after that. There was talk of the Browns, eating, like, $10 million of his salary so that, it wouldn't be such a burden to other teams. And it's really smart if they can, continue to use, different avenues of the salary cap to release players or make players more attractive for other teams that don't have a big of a salary cap as the Browns do.
Yeah. I think it's definitely going to be an interesting ride this year, just because now that we've acquired some more talent, and I love the fact that there's a lot of people that oppose the way the Browns are doing business now because it devalues the gut feeling. Because there's plenty of people in football that have made a career off getting lucky. I'll say it that way.
Right.
If you're a scout and you were one of the ones to scout Tom Brady, I'm sure you made and said that he was going to be good.
Yeah.
You probably made a career off of that. If you were one of the ones to scout these good players, more often than not, I would say that there's skill there, but also there's a lot of luck. Whereas I think the Browns are now saying, we know there's luck involved, but we're going to make every decision based on the numbers.
Yeah,
and to me, that's interesting, and it's really kind of entertaining to see people oppose it because they know they're threatened by it, and that's what it's down to.
I mean, they literally have the guy from Moneyball. I mean, the NFL is such an old school league, and how long it takes,
It's a good old boys league.
Yeah, right, exactly. There's, how long have concussions been an issue, but they're kind of just and then kind of turn the other way, and then we'll think about it next off season, and it's kind of the same thing. When you look at baseball, now if you aren't playing the Moneyball game, then you're out of everything, and kind of in the NBA too, teams are so competitive that you have to play Moneyball in order to, draft the best guys, or Houston started it, and it's
I think it's like a transition in each of the major sports, and it's just a little tweaked in each one. Obviously the Moneyball approach in baseball was I think it was focused on base percentage.
Yeah, just get on base because those
just
score the
get on
runs.
base
So
and you give us a chance to score runs. And then like the NBA transition is let's take, it serves us better to take a bunch of threes every game than it does to take a bunch of twos because we have the potential. And I don't know how all the math works out, but it's like if we shoot 40% from three or 50% from field goal percentage, which 40% is really good for a three. 50% is probably 55% field goal percentage at two is probably pretty good. So that's the transition happening there. And then in football, I think it's kind of the last frontier for the money ball approach. Analytics have been happening, I think, but it'll just be. And I'm not saying that it's going to work with the Browns because I think you still have to get lucky in the NFL.
Yeah. And the NFL is really good with stats at looking at like when the year's done, looking at progression and stuff like that. But it's really hard to project stats in the NFL. And it's funny because in baseball and basketball, like the stats that they're using now to evaluate players, they're out there in broad daylight. You just got to find the right people and the right like mentality and team and owners and entire system to buy into those numbers that tell you, he should take his shot 2 feet to the left because that's gonna, all this stuff that they go through, tracking players' movements and stuff like that. I think, some team, I think the NFL is gonna start putting a microchip in the football to track some player analysis and stuff like that. So they're starting to come on with some, I guess, 21st century look at things.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Do you think that the NFL should be threatened by people not wanting to show up to games? And from that, I mean, like with technology developing, you think there will always be a desire for fans to actually be at the game, especially at prices that NFL charges.
Yeah. I mean, in some markets, you're going to have places that always sell out games. I mean, I feel like, Cleveland, Green Bay, New England, Chicago, those kind of places, they're probably always going to sell out games. But as far as, like a season tickets, no one buys season tickets anymore. I mean, you look at the Browns and like, they're trying to do this deal with the, if you buy the Steelers game, you have to buy 2 other tickets throughout the year. So they're kind of trying to throw in trades there. And, with the secondary market, it's so easy not to buy season tickets and still get a fairly good deal, and you don't have to go to 8 games a year. And I don't know how the Browns works, but, a lot of stadiums kind of have limited the amount of time that you can tailgate at a game. So instead of being able to get there at 7 a.m, tailgate all through the afternoon, and then say you have a 1 o'clock game, go to the game, you come back, and you can tailgate until 7 p.m. Now, some teams are saying, okay, 2 hours before kickoff is when you can start tailgating, and then 2 hours after you got to be out. So there's like, you can't even make it an event anymore. So there is less draw, and like, since it kind of draws back to how popular fantasy football and DraftKings and stuff has become, if you can be at home and watch 4 games at once on a giant monitor, like, who doesn't just want to do that?
Exactly. I always wonder if that'll ever change, and people will just. I don't think it's going to be an issue for a long time, but down the road, I mean, with the way technology is developing, and like you were saying, there's all these 21st century potential developments that could come into the game that you'd be able to see on the TV, but not necessarily if you're sitting in a seat at the stadium. Like, if I can sit at the game and see the velocity of the ball and see, instant replay to the extent of like tennis, for catches.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what the developments will be, but I don't think you'll ever be able to replace the atmosphere of pregame, I guess.
Right.
Like tailgating and stuff like that. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see like which owner, kind of builds the stadium of the future technology-wise. Because I know, LA is building a brand new stadium for the Rams and the Chargers to play in, and it'll also be used for the Olympics eventually. So that's going to be like brand new, like state-of-the-art facility. But is it necessarily going to have like, video screens at each seat where you can like get on DirecTV Red Zone during, timeouts and watch plays and stuff like that? And I think that's what it's going to have to come to. Like you can, look at your DraftKings like on a tablet or whatever during the game, and like
that's a good point. I think that one of the most, I guess, entertaining things for me with sports anymore is just that we've been exposed to in our generation that I think the last probably 20 years haven't really been, is just getting the player's point of view.
Yeah.
Like, I think in the last probably 5 to 10 years, players have had a larger or louder voice than they've had in years past, whether it be via social media or via podcast or whatever. Like, I used to be the biggest ESPN junkie there ever was. Between news, sports, like I lived and died by it. But now I can't tell you the last time I watched it because I don't care, because I can 9 times out of 10 I can get the same information or more information quicker, or I can get the actual information that I want from the players, straight from the players.
Right, and it seems like everything today has become like hyper localized, and in terms of figuring out, in terms of following the teams that you want to follow, and then also like, say I remember doing this on SportsCenter. You'd sit there and you'd see the little runner on the side, and you think, man, I gotta watch like 6 other things I don't want to watch before the Indians highlights come up. And you're just like, well, I could just go on their website and watch them myself. And
yeah, no, exactly right. Like, through Bleacher Report or anything like that, and even that road tripping podcast, it's like half the time they're not even talking about things that pertain to me whatsoever. But it's so, I guess it's kind of refreshing just to hear that, at the end of the day, they're just guys, right? They're just guys like you and I, who just make $100 million playing a game.
Right.
But other than that, they have the same struggles. Like, they have similar experiences from when they were in college and going to high school and stuff. And it's just, that's what entertains me more than just the game.
Right. And I think it's really interesting because, from an outsider's perspective, before that podcast, and, Kevin Durant has his own YouTube channel and things of that sort, you kind of just, unless you were a sports agent or an insider, you kind of just guessed or assumed from an outside perspective what goes on in a player's day-to-day life, and like actually being able to hear them, talk with other athletes or talk with their teams, and see like what it's like, what they go through, like, what they eat, like what they do on off days and how they spend their off season. It's really interesting how you can find a lot of information out about those guys. So
good stuff.
Yeah. So all right. So I think we got fantasy football definitely covered. Let's we're about like the 40-minute mark here. So let's dive into week 1. We've got the Pittsburgh Steelers coming into town, playing the Cleveland Browns. I just wanted to run through some interesting stats that I figured out about this matchup. So overall, Steelers lead the series 72-58, which is actually a lot more unlopsided than I would think.
I agree.
But here's where the kicker is. When you look at when the Browns came back to Cleveland in 1999, the Browns are 6-31 against the Steelers.
Wow.
Yeah. And then also, the main joke that everyone always has with Cleveland is how many quarterbacks they're going to start. I think if they end up starting 3 quarterbacks this year, 3 different quarterbacks, that will be the 5th year in a row that they have started 3 different quarterbacks. And it's so crazy how many quarterbacks we have seen go through, and they're like nobodies,
How many can you name? Do you attribute a lot, I guess, the frequency of our quarterback issues, meaning injuries, to poor offensive line or just poor quarterback play?
I mean, I feel like we've had a pretty good offensive line, at least recently. Joe Thomas, John Greco, those guys have put up some good numbers, and our running game seems to be pretty strong. I don't know if it's the pressure of not just trying to win a couple games each season, but everyone, not to quote the greatest Browns quarterback of all time, but Johnny Manziel came into the league, and when the Browns drafted him, he said he wanted to be the guy who turned them around. So I think a lot of guys put pressure on themselves because Cleveland is such a football town to completely turn around and be that franchise guy. And it's I don't know if you blame the front office or what, but none of these guys have just been able to crack the code. I mean, yeah, Derek Anderson had a Pro Bowl 10-6 season. We still didn't even make the playoffs that year. I mean, that's the best season that I can remember. I haven't watched like a full season growing up. So
well, and I think the difference this year and why rather than just being the consummate optimist when it comes to being a Browns fan, I think that this year will be different, even though that's cliche, is because to your point exactly about there being so much pressure from these typically veterans that we bring in, or even, probably rookies that are put into a situation before they're ready. In the case of, I think, Brandon Weeden a little bit. In the case of Johnny Manziel, he wasn't, I don't think, near ready to play. That was kind of just pressure from the front office. From what I've heard from Deshaun Kaiser and what I know about Hugh Jackson, I think Hugh Jackson will be really focused on Deshaun Kaiser playing within himself and knowing that he doesn't have to go out. If he goes out and throws for 400 yards, great. But you also need to know that it's a different league, it's a faster league, and Hugh Jackson has never had. He's done a lot more with a lot less in the past. So
right.
He dealt with Joe Flacco, he dealt with Andy Dalton, and then last year he dealt with Cody Kessler. And I think he coached Cody Kessler to mediocrity, which was way above where Cody Kessler probably should have been playing. and now he has a guy with all the physical tools that he can really connect with. And I think people will be surprised by Deshaun Kaiser's play, because I think he's been over scrutinized for things that were, being a bit of a Notre Dame fan, I think he lost a lot of talent from his redshirt freshman year to redshirt sophomore year. So the 4-8 record was not necessarily all on him per se. And I don't think Brian Kelly's a great players coach. I think he's not about developing talent. Not that I think college coaches should be developing talent for the NFL, but I think Deshaun Kaiser is going to impress.
Yeah, and I agree completely with that. And I think Hugh Jackson, when he made the choice to make Deshaun Kaiser the starter, I think he really has Deshaun Kaiser's long-term development interest. That's his top priority, is to keep him and develop him for the long term. And some people may think, well, they're just starting another rookie and they're just, they're going to tank again. But I really think that, Hugh Jackson is going to be smart with DeShone Kizer, and there are going to be some rough patches. I mean, starting against opening day against the Steelers is going to be a pretty tough matchup. But he's going to be able to work through it, and I think that whole offense is willing to sacrifice, for his learning curve to develop for the long term of the franchise.
Yeah, and just listening to Cleveland talking heads, like radio stations, stuff like that, there was weeks of debate on whether you should start DeShone Kizer just because they needed a story to talk about.
Right.
And for a while, I was in the camp of no, sit him for the first maybe 6 to 8 games, and then bring him in and see how he plays the last. And the more I thought about it, and it didn't hurt that Hugh Jackson ended up naming him the starter, but the more I think about it, if you look back, really successful quarterbacks who sat behind really successful quarterbacks.
Right.
So while, I agree that if you have that luxury to sit behind someone and learn, that's without doubt the right move. But are you going to tell me that DeShone Kizer should not be starting because he's going to sit back, lose reps to a guy like Brock Osweiler or Cody Kessler?
Yeah.
Brock Osweiler only 26, so it's not like he's a 10-year vet with a lot of career wins under his belt. So I was persuaded to the other side because I'm a firm believer in sink or swim. Like, the best way to learn is to figure it out. Right. So he's going to have this season to figure it out, and if he doesn't and show progress, then we'll be back to the drawing board at the early part of the draft next year.
Yeah, and taking Brock Osweiler as an example of what you just said, he sat behind Peyton Manning, like one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. And then when he got his chance, it kind of, hurt him that, one, he was behind him, so there was the hype of following Peyton Manning. And then, when he actually did sink or swim, he sank pretty hard. He got paid, but he sank pretty hard. So, and I mean, looking back at, I look back at pretty much all the Browns quarterbacks, and it's actually a pretty recent phenomena that a rookie has started for the Browns. I mean, Brandon Weeden was the last guy to do it. He actually started 15 games in 2012, which I couldn't believe that he actually started all those games. Yeah, that was the last year that the Browns had less than 3 starting quarterbacks during the year. And before that, it was, that was like, he was the last guy. Brandon Weeden was the last rookie to ever start the season. Yeah, because Couch came in and he didn't start. I looked at Manziel I think he was named the starter in, week 3 of the preseason that year. But I don't know if you remember, but he flipped a guy the bird in the stands, and he got, suspended. So that didn't happen. Bernie Kosar, even though he was he had that weird thing where he got picked in the supplemental draft, but he was.
They played the system because he wanted to go to the Browns. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, he did.
So rather than, I didn't know that until just within the last month or two that he wanted to go to the Browns. So he said, instead of getting drafted, I'm just going to go to the supplemental draft.
Right.
Do you know what draft pick the Browns gave up for him?
I don't.
I wonder, that'd be interesting, what round?
Yeah.
Because I know, because we also got Josh Gordon in the supplemental draft, and I know the way it worked then, and it might have changed since the 80s, I'm sure it did, was that basically it's like a silent auction. So every team that is interested in a player puts in their best round.
Gotcha.
And then whoever had the highest pick within that round in the upcoming year or the year past got. So And that's how we got Josh Gordon.
Yeah,
That's
that'd be
another.
interesting to see. I wouldn't think that, especially for guys in the supplemental draft, I wouldn't think that, teams would risk much more than, say, a fourth round pick or something in those, because some of those guys are kind of, maybe they're injury hampered or they have, I don't know if anyone has Josh Gordon problems, but yeah, it'd be interesting to see what pick was given up for Bernie Kosar. And then the last guy, the very, one of the first quarterbacks of the Browns, Otto Graham, he would have been the starter, but his coach did not let him start week 1 because he thought he was too tired from being discharged from the Navy. It's like one of the greatest quarterbacks, the greatest quarterback arguably in Browns history was not even a rookie, starting quarterback in week 1. So, but times are changing. I like Sean Kaiser. I like what I've seen. We have a really good offensive line around him. The running game should be strong. Hopefully, wide receivers stay healthy. I think tight ends are good. That anytime you get like a previous basketball player, a guy with a basketball body as a tight end that's athletic, and I mean that's how you really open up the field is getting him to break linebackers off down the middle of the field, and then that starts opening up. People start creeping in to help him, and it just all rolls from there. So
yeah, I think this year more than last year, you want to see more wins, but you also just want to see a more exciting product on the field. Because at the end of the day, the NFL is a product. It's an entertainment product, and we want to. Last year it was, I think, probably Browns viewership had to be the worst ever, I would assume, because being a huge Browns fan, I stopped watching late in the season because it was just painful. I think just progress you want to see, and you want to see an offense capable of scoring some points. So that might be asking too much, but I think there's enough potential players with upside. I think they could pleasantly surprise some people.
Right, and I definitely think I think the Browns are the spread for the entire season is like 4.5 wins for the Browns. And a lot of people are taking the under, but I think they're going to surprise some teams. I see them as a 6-win team, and that's a big improvement. Just being able to win some games, get some confidence. Let's talk about a big Band-Aid on the Browns going into this week 1 and potentially into a bigger part of the season is Myles Garrett. The injury to Myles Garrett. I mean, it's classified as a high ankle sprain right now. There's been really no timetable released. Has he gotten? Do you know if he's gotten the MRI yet, or he's going to get that?
I think he already had it today, and I know he's week to week, so everyone has already ruled him out for the Ravens game, but I don't think that's necessarily the case. It's funny, I was just talking to someone within the last week or so, and it seems like, obviously, every year, Browns fans are super optimistic, super hyped up for the first game because they always think, and we always think, that they're going to outperform our expectations.
Yes.
Which I don't know if they ever will, to be honest, because as we get better, our expectations will just increase. So,
yeah, exactly.
Anyway, I was just talking to someone, I said, God, the last 5 to 10 years, it just seems like we go in feeling good, and then early in the season, something happens that's, quote, so Browns. Like last year in the first 4 weeks of the season, we had so many injuries, it was laughable because you're just like, what injury bug, or what no other team is plagued by the injury bug like the Browns have been.
Yeah.
And it just happens to be that we're the Browns. And the year before that, it was the Manziel saga. The year before that, it was Brandon Weeden being just garbage in the preseason. It was just one thing after the other. And this year, to date, and going into this week, there hadn't been one thing that was like, you know what, that would happen to the Browns. And then today, or yesterday, that happens to Myles Garrett, and today the fight happens with Calvin Pryor. Yeah. So, I don't know. It's ironic that I was just having that discussion because the NFL is a lot about luck, and I think it seems like we're walking into the season with a little bit of bad luck already.
Right, and it really stinks because Myles Garrett was just one of those like generational, talents. Like, yeah, Joe Thomas is going to be a Hall of Fame left tackle, and the Browns have had some guys that have shown flashes, but he was a guy who, if someone texts you, if you're not a Browns fan, someone texts you and said, like, Myles Garrett has 3 sacks in 3 quarters, like, you're going to change over to the Browns and just, like, watch him destroy guys on defense, and it's just a real shame that it is just, I guess, so Browns that this would happen to him. But
the over-under for his comeback is 4 weeks. What are you taking?
I mean, high ankle sprains are very tricky. I would take the over just to be safe, just because he has had some, injury concerns in the past. In college, he got injured a bit, and I think he injured himself early in preseason. But
let's be fair. What's the point in rushing him? I would take the over too, because what do you stand to gain by him back? I mean, we're not, like I said, no one thinks we're competing for the Super Bowl or maybe even a playoff spot this year. So when we're sitting at 0-5 in Week 5, it will give us something to look forward to in Week 6. Myles Garrett coming back.
Yeah, and I mean the first 4 weeks of the Browns season are pretty brutal. I mean, they have 3 AFC North division games, and then it'd probably be an Andrew Luckless Colts that they play. So, they bring him back against, say, arguably one of the worst teams in the NFL, the Jets, or maybe the Texans or something like that. I mean, there's no rush to get him back during those 4 games when he could. Go ahead.
Yeah, and something that in the preseason you saw is top to bottom. I just think our defensive line depth is so much changed from last year because we have a couple of guys who have really taken, it seems like, the next step in year 2. So his backups tore it up in the preseason. Carl Nassib, we drafted him 2 years ago, so he's in year 2 now. He tore it up in the preseason. Nate Orchard, I think we drafted him 3 years ago, so it's not like these guys, they had solid preseason. So we have a lot. If we were gonna suffer a significant injury across any of our position groups, it actually is kind of a benefit that it's the defensive line, because it's without doubt our deepest position group. Had it been a Jason McCourty or Jamar Taylor or someone on the offensive line, or Jamie Collins, God forbid, I think, if it's going to be somewhere, I'm okay with it being on the defensive line. And it sucks selfishly that we have to wait to see him play because everyone's talked so highly about his work ethic and just his overall talent. But I'm okay with it. I've come to terms with it.
Yeah, I think it'll be fine. And I mean, like you said, I don't know if you mentioned Agba, but he has been a stud, and he can really turn on the Jets this year. And our linebackers are, surprisingly very good. As Kirksey's really shown some good flashes, and
that's my player to watch. My player to watch on Sunday is Joe Schobert, middle linebacker. So he was everywhere in the preseason games. I mean, in coverage, breaking up passes, sacking the quarterback. So, and he's kind of an undersized guy, so I think he's got a little chip on his shoulder.
Yeah,
and I think Greg Williams really challenged him, and I'm going to be watching him closely, and because I think he's going to be an exciting player to watch.
Yeah, we definitely need good linebacker play against Roethlisberger. He has always hurt us with runs, and I don't know if Greg Williams' plan is to QB spy him sometimes, but I feel like our linebacking core is really athletic and is going to be able to kind of contain some of those scrambles that have just killed the Browns in previous years. So, what do you feel about Jabril Peppers? What's your outlook for him?
He is. I love the guy. I do. If the Browns jerseys weren't so god awfully ugly, I would have already bought his jersey.
Yeah.
But I think that he is. I don't think that the Browns are outsmarting a whole bunch of people with their approach, but I think their draft approach is let's get an offensive and defensive coordinator that can bring out the best in athletes. Let's not focus on getting someone who's necessarily great at one position. Let's draft defense guys who are big, strong, and fast, and that can play multiple positions. And God, between punt return, kick return, and just playing free safety, which I'm pumped that he's playing free safety as opposed to strong safety.
Mm-hmm.
Just get the ball in this guy's hands because he is an athlete, and I think he has the instincts for the game that maybe can't be taught or coached. They may be. I think it's just something that you have, and he has them. So I can't. There's a lot of players I'm watching, but Jabril and Joe Schobert on defense will be two of the main ones.
Yeah, I'm really excited to watch defense, and kind of to come full circle on a thought that you brought up. If you want to still continue to talk Moneyball about Jabril Peppers, and I think that the NBA has definitely gone sort of positionless. The baseball guys are moved around all the time. Bullpens are basically positionless. Look at the Indians in the last World Series. So yeah, just your best chance is just throwing a bunch of athletes and letting them work out. A lot of NFL teams in the recent past have drafted safeties guys that played safety in college and moved them to middle linebacker so they can have very athletic guys to cover these like athletic tight ends and all the slot guys that are switched in and out, and so it's really good to see Peppers get the start. I'm excited to see him play a lot. So
yeah, I think it's one of the most exciting parts about our team as a whole is you can just see there's more athletes out there. Like I was reading in the preseason that Jamie Collins is probably the best athlete on the team. Like anything that he does, not just playing middle linebacker, like the defense and offense skill position. And everyone but the quarterback group had like a skills competition of throwing accuracy, speed, all this different stuff. And Jamie Collins won because he won on a tiebreaker or something, throwing a ball 40 yards into a net. It's like that. Yeah. You just, when you look at Jamie Collins, he doesn't necessarily look like your standard linebacker because I think he could probably line up as a DN if you wanted him to.
He's a monster.
Yeah. So I just think in having a year under his belt and the fact that he signed an early contract to stay with the Browns, I think has a lot to do with where the Browns are heading because if he would have tested free agency, I think he would have made more money. So,
that's a really good sign.
Yeah. And he was, a couple of years ago, I think in 2015, he was all-pro, second-team all-pro with Patriots. So, yeah, it'll be really, really good, fun to watch, the defense.
Yeah, that's gonna be really exciting. So let's wrap this podcast up. Let's pick our game. So that I think the line is right around 8.5, which kind of surprised me. I looked into it to see if it had changed, or what the line was before Le'Veon decided he was going to join, and then after the Myles Garrett injury, and it was at 8.5 for all those scenarios. So, I don't see the Browns winning this game just because the Steelers, they're probably the second best. They are the second best team in the AFC, but I do see, it's a home game, it's opening day, I definitely see the Browns covering that spread, maybe getting it
Yeah,
within a field goal, and I would love to see them pull the upset, but I think the Steelers are just too good for the Browns right now.
I don't think they'll win, but I think they'll keep it within the spread. I don't think the Steelers will cover, and I think it'll be a 1-touchdown game.
Yeah.
So, and Deshaun Kaiser, I think again he's going to impress all season. I think it's going to start this weekend. I think he's wise beyond his years, which is a signal, I think, of just maturity. And I think you look at Tom Brady's, Peyton Manning's, they always handled the media well, and I think you can see that in his just the way he carries himself. He carries himself like a leader.
Yeah.
And I heard him say today, which I thought was really interesting. They interviewed him after practice, and he said he does not listen to any music in pregame because he just wants to feel his surroundings. He wants to smell the smells, hear the crowd, hear the music that's playing in the stadium. He doesn't want to create a false sense of comfort in his own headphones. He just wants to feel everything and be in it. And I thought that was so cool because it's just something different that you don't hear. And I think it's like a sign of maturity. He doesn't want to pretend to live in this world of hype music. He'll let the crowd get him hype and let the atmosphere get him hype, and he'll go out there and hopefully impress.
Yeah, I think so too. And I looking back at things now, the Browns have a pretty good shot at, maybe odds wise, Christian McCaffrey and Leonard Fournette probably have better odds, or maybe even Dalvin Cook had better odds for Rookie of the Year. But if Garrett was able to stay healthy, they've got Garrett, Njoku, Kaiser, and Peppers all right there to compete for Rookie of the Year. I mean, that's a lot of prospects too that people could argue, looking at them as just prospects, people could argue that they're right up there for Rookie of the Year. So that'll be interesting to see how that folds out as the season goes on. So,
yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, good stuff, man.
You don't think the Steelers will cover the spread?
I do not. Not a home. I mean, yeah, not a home game. I think the dog pound's going to be pretty rowdy. I'd like to see. I mean, if Kaiser gets rattled early, that may be a big difference. But Browns line should hold strong. And
first touchdown of the Cleveland Browns season. Hopefully, it comes this weekend. Will be.
I think it's going to be a little flair to Duke Johnson.
Duke Johnson?
Yeah, I'm picking Duke Johnson.
I'm gonna change it up. I'm gonna say Jabril Peppers punt return for a touchdown in game 1.
That would be very exciting.
Yeah, that'd be great. So, alrighty, right. Bill, good stuff.
Yeah, this was good. Well, I don't know. There's a little break in there. I may record something and end the podcast a different way, but maybe we'll just say good stuff, and that's our ending. Good. But yeah, I mean, I can't believe we went an hour. It didn't seem like that at all. Just for our first time. I could
definitely keep talking too. It's good though to have a little agenda just in case there's any lulls. You can kind of reference something,
right?
But there's definitely plenty to talk about, and I think we could have gone off on several tangents that we didn't.
Yeah, and the agenda's good and bad because I realize sometimes I was jumping to it just to say what was on there, but other times it did help out in transitioning to other topics and stuff like that. So,
yeah.
But I mean, for just basically a page with a couple hours of research, I mean, we can easily talk about Browns for an hour. So,
yeah.
But like we said, I mean, this is really going to be a really exciting season. So there's definitely going to be plenty to talk about, as there always is with the Browns, and hopefully it's good this year. So.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't even know if I can watch the game. I have my grandpa's 80th birthday party.
Oh, really? See, I think I don't even know if I'll be able to watch it because I think I get Cincinnati as the regional team, and they play at the same time as the Browns. Yeah, freaking Columbus.
Damn, you're gonna have to go to a bar.
I know.
Columbus plays Cincinnati?
Yeah, that was the one thing like I had no idea about when I came down here. You'd think it'd be like some kind of split jurisdiction thing where you could like choose.
Yeah.
But NFL probably doesn't let you do that, so.
Right.
And it's no sense
in
getting.
You just buy the Sunday ticket, Bill, and then you can get any game that you want. It's only $580 per year.
Don't they black out the regional games though, so I wouldn't be able to see the Bengals or the Browns?
Oh, probably. Yeah, probably.
I don't know. Yeah, I saw if you're a student, you could get it for pretty cheap, but you have to be like an actual active student.